The sunlight filtered through the massive glass windows of the Carter estate, casting warm golden rays across the marble floors. Daniel Carter, one of New York's youngest self-made billionaires, sat at the head of a sleek dining table, sipping his morning coffee while flipping through business reports on his tablet. Despite the grandeur of his life, the sprawling mansion, the fleet of cars, and the magazine covers that called him the modern tycoon, something inside him still longed for peace. His mother, Evelyn Carter, had raised him with discipline and kindness, working 2 jobs after Daniel's father died to give him a chance at the future he now lived. Even after he made his first $100 million, he never forgot where he came from. So when he married Lily, a beautiful, charming woman from an upper-crust family, he thought life had come full circle. Beauty, brains, and love, or so he believed. But love, as Daniel would soon discover, could sometimes wear a flawless mask. That morning, Evelyn walked into the dining room carrying a tray of freshly baked muffins. Her hands trembled slightly with age, but her smile was warm as ever. "I made your favorite, Danny," she said softly, placing the tray down. Daniel smiled. "You didn't have to, Mum. The chef could have done it." "I know," Evelyn chuckled. "But the chef doesn't know how you like your muffins a little burnt on the edges." From across the room, Lily stood by the window, her arms crossed. Her eyes rolled almost imperceptibly. She had grown increasingly irritated by Evelyn's presence since moving into the mansion. To Lily, the old woman represented everything outdated: her simple dresses, her old-fashioned values, her quiet humility. In Lily's world of champagne brunches and designer handbags, Evelyn was an eyesore. Later that day, while Daniel was away at a board meeting, Evelyn decided to do some gardening. She loved tending to the flowers in the backyard, finding joy in the simplicity of soil and sunlight. Lily watched from the kitchen window, her lips twisting into a sneer. When Evelyn entered the kitchen to fetch a glass of water, Lily seized the moment. "Do you have to keep acting like a maid around here?" Lily said sharply. "We have staff for that." Evelyn blinked in surprise. "I'm just helping out. I like to feel useful." "Useful?" Lily scoffed. "You're embarrassing us. Daniel might be too polite to say it, but you're turning this house into a farmhouse." Evelyn's face fell. "Lily, I'm sorry if I save it," Lily snapped. "Just stay out of the way." Evelyn quietly retreated to her room, wiping her eyes. She didn't want to cause any trouble, especially for Daniel. The next day, Daniel left early for an important investor call in Manhattan. Lily, left alone with Evelyn, seethed with resentment. The housekeeper had accidentally spilled juice on Lily's white silk dress that morning, and in her frustration, she turned her anger toward the one person who couldn't fight back. As Evelyn arranged flowers near the back patio, Lily came up behind her holding a bucket of dirty mop water. Evelyn turned just in time to see Lily's cruel smile. "You wanted to be useful, right?" Lily hissed. "Here's something useful, cleaning this mess up." Before Evelyn could react, Lily tipped the bucket, splashing the grimy water all over her dress and hair. The elderly woman gasped, stumbling backward. Tears welled in her eyes, but she said nothing. She just stood there, trembling, as Lily smirked and walked away. What neither of them realized was that a camera part of Daniel's high-end home security system had captured everything. Later that evening, Daniel came home exhausted but content. His company had just secured a $1 billion contract. He was ready to celebrate with his wife and his mother. But as he walked past the hallway monitor, a red light blinked on the security screen. Motion detection. Curious, Daniel tapped the playback button. And then he froze. There, in crystal clear footage, was Lily, laughing, taunting, and pouring filthy water over his mother's head. Evelyn's face crumpled in humiliation, her frail hands clutching at her drenched clothes. Daniel's heart stopped. His jaw clenched. The woman he had loved, the woman he had trusted, had done the unthinkable. When Lily walked into the living room a few minutes later, Daniel's eyes were cold and unreadable. She smiled, oblivious to what he knew. "You're home, early. How was your meeting?" Daniel didn't answer. He just stared at her, the silence thick enough to suffocate. Inside him, something dark and steady began to rise. Not rage yet, but something sharper, something dangerous. Lily hummed softly as she poured herself a glass of wine, completely unaware of the storm brewing just a few feet away. The chandeliers above flickered slightly, reflecting in Daniel's unblinking eyes as he replayed the video once more on his phone. Every second of humiliation, every cruel laugh, every trace of pain on his mother's face. He had always believed in grace, in patience, in love. But tonight, something inside him shattered. "Lily," he said finally, his tone unnervingly calm. She turned, swirling the wineglass with a smug smile. "Yes, darling, you look tense. Bad day at work?" "Not exactly," Daniel said, setting his phone down on the counter. "It was a productive day. I closed the deal with the investors." "That's wonderful," she said, with feigned enthusiasm, walking over to him. "You should relax. Maybe we can celebrate before that." Daniel interrupted quietly. "I watched something interesting today." Lily's brow furrowed. "Watched something?" Daniel tilted his head toward the large monitor on the wall. "Yes, something that happened right here. While I was gone." She blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" With one simple tap on his phone, the video began playing on the living room screen. The image of Lily dumping the bucket of dirty water over Evelyn appeared in full clarity. Her laughter filled the room again, this time, haunting, echoing back at her. The color drained from Lily's face. The glass slipped from her hand and shattered against the marble floor. "Daniel, that's not." He cut her off sharply. Don't you dare lie." For a moment, all that could be heard was the faint hum of the air conditioning and Lily's shallow breathing. Evelyn appeared at the top of the stairs, drawn by the commotion. She froze, realizing instantly what her son had discovered. Daniel turned to his mother. "Why didn't you tell me?" Evelyn's voice trembled. "I didn't want to cause problems between you two. She's your wife. I thought maybe she was just upset." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Upset doesn't give her the right to humiliate you in my house." "Daniel, please," Lily stammered, tears brimming in her eyes. "It wasn't what it looked like. I was just angry." "I didn't mean," "You didn't mean," he repeated coldly. "You poured filthy water on the woman who raised me, the woman who sacrificed everything so I could stand where I am. And you did it out of spite." I was frustrated. "She treats this place like it's hers," Lily blurted, her voice rising in desperation. "She makes me feel invisible in my own home." Daniel stepped closer, his eyes burning with disbelief. "You feel invisible because you built your worth on vanity. My mother doesn't need jewelry, cars, or social media followers to prove who she is. She has dignity. Something you clearly know nothing about." Lily began to sob, trying to reach for his hand, but Daniel pulled away. "Daniel, please, I love you. Don't throw everything away over a misunderstanding." He stared at her for a long moment. "You're right about one thing," he said coldly. "I am going to throw something away." Her breath caught. "What do you mean, us?" Daniel said, stepping back. "Whatever this was, it's over." "No," she screamed, clutching his arm. "You can't do this. You can't just walk away. Think about what people will think about the scandal." He shook his head. "You should have thought about that before you showed the world who you really are." Evelyn tried to intervene, her gentle heart unwilling to see another person destroyed. "Daniel, maybe you shouldn't make such a decision in anger. Let her," but Daniel stopped her softly. "Mum, forgiveness doesn't mean silence. If I forgive her, she'll think it's okay to treat people like this again. Maybe someone else's mother next time. I can't allow that." Tears streamed down Evelyn's face, but she understood. Lily stood trembling, her once perfect poise now broken, mascara running down her cheeks. "You can't leave me," she whispered. "You'll regret this." "I already do," Daniel said quietly, walking toward the door. "I regret thinking you were capable of love." He left the mansion that night, taking his mother with him. The house that once felt like a dream now stood cold and empty, filled only with the echoes of greed and cruelty. Days passed, then weeks. News of Daniel's sudden departure and rumored separation spread quickly through New York's high society. Gossip columns speculated endlessly. Billionaire Carter's mysterious breakup. Wife in tears as husband vanishes with mother. Lily tried calling, texting, even visiting his company headquarters, but Daniel's assistant blocked her every time. He refused to see her, speak to her, or acknowledge her existence. Then one morning, a courier arrived at the mansion. Inside the envelope were divorce papers and a note in Daniel's unmistakable handwriting. "You broke my heart. But worse, you disrespected the woman who gave it life. There's no rebuilding after that." The pen slipped from Lily's trembling fingers. For the first time in her life, she understood the true meaning of loss. Not the loss of wealth, status, or luxury, but the loss of someone who had truly loved her beyond appearances. And yet, Daniel wasn't done. Behind the calm exterior, he was already planning something that would teach Lily a lesson she would never forget, one that would change both of their lives forever. Daniel stood by the balcony of his penthouse overlooking the glittering Manhattan skyline, the city lights stretching endlessly beneath him. The night breeze brushed his face, but even the cool air couldn't quiet the storm inside him. He had spent weeks in silence, trying to process the betrayal, the humiliation his wife had caused his mother. The woman who had once welcomed Lily into their family with open arms. His phone buzzed. It was his lawyer, Mark. "Daniel, everything's finalized. The divorce papers are filed. She'll be served by tomorrow morning." Daniel exhaled deeply. "Good. Make sure she keeps everything she came with. Not a cent more." Mark hesitated. "Are you sure? Given her lifestyle, that'll ruin her financially." "That's not my concern anymore," Daniel said, his tone calm but cold. "Some lessons can't be taught with money. They're learned through humility." As he hung up, Evelyn walked into the room quietly, her silver hair glowing under the city lights. She carried a cup of tea in her trembling hands. "You haven't eaten all day, Daniel," she said softly. "You're punishing yourself more than anyone." He turned, guilt flickering in his eyes. "I just can't understand how someone could have so much hatred in their heart." Evelyn set the tea down beside him. "You can't reason with people who don't know love, son. But you can show them what love really looks like, by living differently." Her words lingered in the air. For the first time in weeks, Daniel's expression softened. "Maybe you're right. But still, I can't let her walk away thinking she destroyed us." "What do you mean?" Evelyn asked gently. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You'll see." Across town, Lily sat in the now empty mansion. The house felt colder without Daniel's presence. No piano playing late at night. No laughter from the kitchen when Evelyn cooked. Just silence and the distant echo of her own guilt. Her friends had stopped calling. The same people who once admired her glamorous lifestyle now whispered behind her back. The tabloids had moved on to fresher scandals. She had become irrelevant overnight. Then came the knock on the door. When she opened it, a man in a black suit stood there holding an envelope. "Mrs. Carter, I have something for you," he said. She took the envelope, frowning. "Who sent this?" "Mr. Daniel Carter," he replied before walking away. Her heart skipped a beat. Hands trembling, she tore it open. Inside was a letter. "Lily, there's something I want you to see. Go to the address below tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Come alone. It's time you understood what you've done." No signature. Just coordinates and an address. The next morning, Lily arrived at a modest building on the edge of the city. She hesitated before stepping inside, half expecting Daniel to be waiting to scold her. Instead, she found herself standing in a community shelter. A place filled with people who had nothing. Children laughed as volunteers served them breakfast. Elderly women sat knitting at long tables. The smell of coffee and hope filled the air. Confused, Lily approached a young woman wearing an apron. "Excuse me. I was told to come here. Do you know a Daniel Carter?" The woman smiled warmly. "Of course. He funds this entire shelter. He comes every week with his mother." Lily froze. He what?" The woman nodded. "They've been helping us for years. When the roof collapsed last winter, he rebuilt the entire center himself. He doesn't just give money, he spends time here. Talks to everyone. Before Lily could respond, a familiar voice called out from behind her. I didn't think you'd actually show up. She turned. Daniel stood at the doorway, sleeves rolled up, holding a tray of food. There was no anger in his eyes this time, just calm, distant compassion. What is this place? She asked quietly. This, he said, glancing around, is what my mother taught me about love. About worth. About serving others instead of humiliating them. Lily's throat tightened. Why did you bring me here? So you could see what you never understood, Daniel replied. You spent your life looking down on people who had less, when in truth, they have more humanity than you ever showed. Her eyes welled up. Daniel, I was wrong. I know that now. I was scared. I thought if I wasn't perfect, I'd lose everything. He set down the tray. You didn't lose everything because you weren't perfect, Lily. You lost everything because you weren't kind. The silence between them was thick. She wanted to speak, to beg, to explain, but she could see it, the finality in his gaze. He had already moved on, already built something new from the ruins she left behind when he walked away to serve the next group of people. Lily stood there, watching him laugh with a child. For the first time, she saw what real strength looked like, not in wealth, not in power, but in compassion. She left the shelter with tears streaking down her face. But what she didn't know was that Daniel's plan wasn't over yet, because later that night, something would happen that would make Lily's lesson unforgettable, not just for her, but for everyone watching. The night air was heavy with rain. When Lily stood outside the mansion gates that once belonged to her, the familiar marble driveway glistened under the lamplight, the sound of thunder echoing in the distance. She hesitated before pressing the intercom. A security guard's voice crackled through. Yes, ma'am. It's Lily Carter, she said softly. I need to see Daniel. Please, just for a moment. There was silence. Then the gates opened with a slow mechanical groan. She stepped inside, her heels clicking against the wet stone. Every corner of the house carried memories, laughter, dinners, her first night as Daniel's wife. But tonight, it felt like a museum of mistakes. Daniel met her at the door, dressed in a simple black sweater, his expression unreadable. Why are you here, Lily? She swallowed hard. I came to apologize. Not for what happened at the dinner, but for everything. I hurt your mother, and in doing that, I hurt you. I was cruel, selfish, and jealous. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to hear me say it. Daniel studied her face for a long moment. The pain in her eyes was real, different from the proud, entitled woman he once knew. He motioned for her to come inside. There's something you should see before you go. He led her into the living room. On the screen, paused at the start, was a video. He pressed play. It was security footage from the infamous dinner, clear and unedited. It showed Lily standing over Evelyn's drink, glancing around nervously before pouring the dirty water. Then Evelyn's trembling hands lifting the glass. Daniel paused the video. I kept this, he said quietly. Not to humiliate you, but to remind myself of how far I'd fallen in loving someone who didn't value kindness. Lily covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't even recognize that person anymore. I believe that, Daniel said gently, because the woman standing in front of me looks like someone who's finally seen the consequences of her own choices. He walked to the window, looking out at the storm. My mother wanted me to give this to you. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from Evelyn. Lily, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry hate in my heart. I pray you find peace, and that one day, you'll use your pain to help someone else. Lily pressed the letter to her chest, sobbing quietly. She forgives me. Daniel nodded. That's who she is. That's who I'm trying to be. Lily took a deep breath. Then maybe I can start again too. I don't want your money, Daniel. I just want to become someone she'd be proud of. He looked at her, and for the first time, his expression softened completely. Then do that. And don't let guilt hold you back. Let it guide you. She nodded, wiping her tears, and turned toward the door. As she reached for the handle, Daniel spoke again. Lily, she turned, surprised. I'm donating the mansion, he said. My mother and I decided it's going to become a women's shelter. For those who need a place to start over. I think she'd like that. Lily froze, speechless. The very house that had once symbolized her greed and vanity would now become a sanctuary for hope. She smiled faintly through the tears. That's beautiful. Maybe someday I can volunteer there too. Daniel nodded. That would be good. She stepped into the rain, letting it soak her hair and clothes. For the first time in years, she didn't hide from it, she welcomed it. Each drop felt like a cleansing, washing away the bitterness she had carried for so long. Inside, Daniel joined Evelyn in the kitchen. She was reading by the fireplace, wrapped in a shawl. He kissed her forehead. It's done. Evelyn smiled. Good, let go of the past, Daniel. There's no peace in holding grudges. He nodded, sitting beside her. I think she's finally found her lesson too. Evelyn looked at the rain through the window. Sometimes, the storm isn't meant to destroy us, son. It's meant to wash us clean. The camera panned out, the mansion lights glowing softly through the storm, the sound of rain fading into calm. Forgiveness doesn't excuse what was done. It frees the one who forgives. And sometimes, the greatest justice isn't revenge, it's growth.